Hello and welcome to the Club Guides. Today's episode we are looking at the Mighty Hammers. So if you've not watched any of these guys before, basically the idea is that we go through the sort of team as a whole. So we'll look at the finances, like the transfer budget and the wage budget, see if we've got any money to spend. We will then look at the under-18s and the under-21s, see if there's any good youth players that are coming through. We'll also look at what the board expect us to achieve this season so we can keep our job, because that's always nice. And then finally we'll have a look at the squads, go through that, look if there's any areas that might need strengthening or perhaps players that we can make some money out of. So first up, obviously we get a message from the director Karen Brady, and this is the vision the board expect the following philosophies to be adhered to. So this is the club's vision, is to play attacking football and develop players using the club's youth system. I think most football managers like doing both those things anyway, so I think that's not a problem. So what do you need to do to keep your job? So they're in Europa League this year, so that'll be interesting. Mid-table in the FA Cup, they expect you to get 5th round, Capital One Cup 4th round, and the Europa League. Don't get embarrassed. I like that. I love that option. You can get away with murder with that option. Just don't get thrashed, please. Just don't embarrass West Ham. I think all those are pretty respectable goals to hit, I think. We'll have a look at the finances next. So we've got 8 million, almost 9 million in the bank. We've got 0 transfer budget, and we are spending all our wages. So you have to sell to buy. I'm not going to go through all the talents in the youth team. I'll let you discover some of the sort of hidden gems like these two, but I'll have a look at Reece Oxford, see how good he's progressing. Obviously a big talent in real life. 16-year-old centre-back defensive midfielder. He's a decent all-rounder. His work rate's good, his determination good, is okay. Both those help him. The higher those two stats are, it will help him reach his potential ability. They're two of the sort of determining factors. So they're okay, could be a little higher. He likes to tackle, 17 aggressions, so he's going to pick up a few yellow cards. Marking 14, tackling 11, heading 10. They're all decent stats for a youngster. It's someone that you could do with some tutoring, maybe get the odd cup game playing, and maybe next year or in the next couple of years get him a good loan move out at a good team. But he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Next we'll go into the under-21s. And have a look at them. So our biggest prospect here is Diego Poyet even, son of Gus. He's on loan at the MK Dons, so that will get him some valuable experience game time. He's only 20 years old, but he's got some great stats. He's got some good physical stats. He's not a pacey player, but central midfield is not quite as important as, say, on the wings or as fullbacks. Great first touch. He's got high determination, high work rate, so he's definitely going to improve. His teamwork's good, his composure's good. He's definitely a quality player. He's best played as a deep line playmaker, although he's definitely better defensively, I would say, than going forward. His tackling's 13, marking 15, are both good. Tackling 13, marking 13 with passing 15. So he's definitely somebody that's not going to be charging forward. His long shots is only 9. Finishing 7, so he's definitely a slightly more defensive player, but definitely got a big future, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops in the game. So finally we'll go on to the actual squad as a whole. So we'll have a quick look through the players and then just sort of see if there's any areas we think we can improve upon with our 0 budget. So in goal we have Adrian. I won't go through all the players in great detail, you kind of know a lot of the players in these sort of good squads. So Adrian, he loves to punch the ball, which is not my favourite. His rushing out is poor, but great reflex, so he's a good shot stopper. One-on-ones is 15, but he might struggle if he's sort of played as a sort of sweeper keeper with a rushing out of only 8. Kicking is 14, throwing is 15, so that's decent distribution. So he's an okay goalkeeper. I think he'll have to do with the 0 budget. There might be other areas in the squad that need strengthening first. And then you've got a perfectly capable backup goalkeeper in Darren Randolph. He is worth 4.2 million, so maybe that's somebody if you needed the money to look to sell, but he's a decent keeper as a backup. They're both 28. So as a right back and can also play left back, we've got Joey O'Brien. He's 29 years old now, so he's starting to decline. His physicals aren't great as is, so I think he might struggle. With that low natural fitness, that means as he gets older, his physicals will drop quicker. So that's not a great sign. He's got decent mentals. He's tackling 15, marking 14, and he can go forward as well. Okay, with 11 crossing. I'm looking through some of the stats. I'm not going to go through every stat for each sort of role. But his work rate and teamwork are really good. Determination's good. He's okay as a squad player because he's quite versatile. He can fill in at central midfield as well. Next up, as far as right backs go, we have Carl Jenkinson. And this guy will obviously be your first choice right back. He's really good going forward. He's decent. His marking's a little bit poor. That's probably quite suspect. But his tackling's decent. He's got great pace, so hopefully he can make up for that. But great going forward with 16 crossing. 23 years old, great player. Unfortunately, you don't have any sort of purchase option on him, but he will be your first choice right back. Left backs, we got excuse me, Aaron Cresswell, and a really good player. I really rate him in FM. He's a great all-rounder. There's no weakness in his game whatsoever, and he's really good defensively. He's really good going forward. I think he's only 25. You're set for the next few years at that left back position. That's kind of it on your right to left space. You've got James Tompkins that can fill in, but no, he can't fill in, can he? That's just a lie that Football Manager's made up. Yeah, so there's definitely you've got two good first teamers, but Jerry O'Brien is really your only backup in that position, so that's definitely an area. It might just take a loan signing to get in, just to have some options. Next up we go to the centre backs. You've got James Tompkins, been around for years. He's a decent central defender. He's got no real weaknesses. He's good in the air. His physicals are decent. 13 pace is okay for a centre back. Yeah, just a decent all-rounder really. He's not going to improve too much being 26, but a decent squad player. Ogbonna is a 27-year-old Italian, and he's a quality centre-back. Can play left-back as well. Not really, but so it just in a crisis, I suppose. His technical's a little bit on the low side. 13 tackling, 14 marking, 14 heading. But his physicals are absolutely excellent. Positioning's really good, which is great for a defender. Yeah, very decent player. Definitely going to stick around in your team, I think. And then obviously you've got Winston Reid, who's another great player. You've got three good central defenders there that can you can choose between which ones you want to use. He's still 26. Yeah, just a great all-round player. No weaknesses to his game. And then you have James Collins. He's 31 years old now, so starting to decline, losing a bit of pace. He's a decent player. He's really good in the air, not quite as good on the ground, but he'll work hard. He's brave. He's going to get a few yellow cards with his aggression, but still a decent player. Just obviously his pace and his movement's going to let him down. He'll probably be a sort of backup defender. And then you got Doniel Henry, who's 22-year-old Canadian. He's not that great. He's a decent backup. I'll just keep him in the squad just as a backup. He's not worth that much money. So defensively, it's pretty good. Central, it's very good, I think. But obviously, you need somebody to cover left back and right back. As Joey O'Brien's your only real option as cover there for both positions. Next, we'll go into central midfield. We've got Mark Noble. Everyone knows about Marky Noble, don't they? Look at he's a great leader, captain of the club, teamwork 20, work rate 18, leadership 18. He's the boss in the midfield. Can also take set pieces, great. Good passer of the ball. Defensively he's okay as well, so he's a good all-rounder really, can play central mid or defensive midfielder. Next up we have Alex On, who starts the game 4 months out, so bear that in mind. But he's just a beast of a defensive midfielder, ball-winning midfielder all day long. Just a great all-round player on loan. Do you have an option? No. Then we've got Cote. Again, very similar to Song, more on the defensive side. Great ball-winning midfielder, 25 years old, good all-rounder, good physicals, but definitely more on the defensive side. Then we have Aubameyang. He's a little bit more advanced for my initial viewing. He can play a little bit further forward. Okay physicals, okay. He's a sort of decent player, I think. Actually, he's only 23, so he's got some room to improve. He's got good teamwork and work rate, which is nice for centre mid. Play him as a sort of deep lying playmaker, even a box to box. His natural fitness is 16. His pace isn't the highest for a box to box, but stamina 16, so he'll run all day. He's decent going forward and can tackle as well. Next up in sort of central midfield options, that's kind of it really. So we'll go on to the wingers next. So Lanzini can play central midfield, but I think he's definitely better further forward. He'd also make a great left winger and right winger probably. He just needs a few weeks work on that, he'll be sorted. He's only 22 years old, he's got bags of talent, he's got determination's 13, work rate's 12, that's okay. Good technique, good dribbling, good flair, decent pace, he's going to beat people. His long shots is 13, he's got good at free kicks, so he's a really quality player, and I think bags of potential. He should be around the squad for a long time. You have an option on him, don't you? Yes, 5 million. So he's definitely one to consider purchasing for 5 million, I think. Next up we have Victor Moses, who just gets shoveled off to every club every season in the hopes that somebody will want to buy him, it seems. But he's actually a decent player. He's got good pace. He can play on both wings and up front at a push-ish. His crossing isn't the best, so maybe it's better as inside forward. He can throw the ball really long. He will go. His mentals are really lacking, so he will go missing in games with teamwork 10, positioning 8, decision making 10, concentrations 8. He's not brave, so those sort of things are his let down. But he's fine for a lone player. I wouldn't really look to making his deal permanent even if you had the option, which you don't. Next up we got Antonio, good versatile winger, can play on both sides again, cuts inside, so he looks like he likes to play as more of an inside forward as well as a winger. Long throws, and apparently has the long flat bullet throw, which is actually quite a nice set piece routine. Decent pace and a decent all-rounder. His mentals aren't the strongest, but 25, so can still improve a little bit. Next up we have Enner Valencia, best played as a striker I think, but can also fill in decently as a winger. 10 crossing, maybe a little bit low, but good flair, good heading as well, so I think he's definitely more of a striker. Really like him, still only 25. I think he's slightly injury prone. He starts off the game out for 4 months as well, so bear that in mind. Next up we have Payet. Now every West Ham fan is purring about this guy, and no wonder. He's absolutely beastly in FM as well. Probably one of the first names on the team sheet. Very versatile, can play anywhere behind the striker. Yes, just get him in your squad and start scoring some goals pretty much. Next up we have Mario Zarate. He's listed, I think, he's listed at the start of the game, but you can change that. I actually think he's a decent player. He can play striker or behind the striker, can fill in on the wings, which is actually pretty decent at. I think he's a decent squad player. Again, he's one of those players that his mentals are letting him down. He could go missing the odd game, as probably West Ham fans know. His physicals aren't the greatest. He's at the peak of his powers at the moment, being 28 years old. He's a decent player. If you can get decent money, then maybe he's worth 6 million. But there's definitely an option to keep him there. Next up, you've got Jelavic, who's... it's Jelavic, isn't it? He goes on a scoring streak and then doesn't score for 3 years. He's a decent backup. He makes a good target man, is his best role by far. His physicals are a little bit low. Not much to say about him, really. I think you've only just signed him permanently, haven't you? Yeah, so 3 million as well. Yeah. Hello, Sam Allardyce. Yeah, he's going to be a rotation and then probably sell him at the nearest opportunity, because you have a much better version of a target man. So you've got Andy Carroll, who starts off the game injured. No shocks to anyone there. But just a beast of a target man. Much better version than Jelavic. Definitely a good player. And then lastly you have Geoff Risako, 25 years old, so room to improve. Great work rate, great determination, so he definitely will improve for those stats. He can head the ball, finishing. First touch is 13 as well, composure's 12 and 15 off the ball, so he's good. He's a quality attacker. Acceleration's great, pace isn't quite so much. You'd probably better work on that if you wanted a bit more pace out of him. So that pretty much sums it up. So I think just giving you a sort of brief overview, you've got some fantastic striking options. You've basically got 2 target men and 2 people that can play off them. Winger-wise and behind the front men, you've got Zarate, who can do a job if you want to keep him or sell him for 6-8 million. You've got Payet, obviously, who's amazing. You've got Lanzini, who's a quality youngster that you can bring in for 5 million at any point. Antonio's good. Midfield options, you've got a couple of quality ball-winning midfielders and then a couple of good players that are slightly better at going forward. As I said, my goal, if I had money, so let's say if we sold Zarate for 8 million, I think my goal would be to get a left back stroke right back. You've got 2 great first choices in Cresswell and Jenkinson, but you just need somebody to cover that one. You know, we've only got Joey O'Brien and he can't cover both positions. You've got these guys that can play, but they really can't. Agbona and Tompkins really can't play left back unless you're playing really defensive fullbacks, then yes, but other than that, no. And then I think my next purchase going into, if you had the money or even like in a January transfer window or the summer, would be a better goalkeeper. But other than that, a really great squad. I hope you enjoy using Payet. Please let me know what you're doing with the West Ham team. If you're signing any players, selling any players, you getting rid of Zarate, for instance, or you're going to keep him. The Karate Kid, if you watch Spencer, the Zarate Kid, if you watch Spencer FC. But yeah, but really good team, I think. Mid-table is definitely doable with this team, I think. So please subscribe, guys. Please check out the other guides. I'm doing all of the Premiership. I've got 3 to go, thank God. They've been fun to make, but they take quite a bit of time and a lot of talking. So please subscribe and check out the others, and also check out my lead save and my crew save, which is about to begin tomorrow. That would be fantastic, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.